New Zealand First, the ACT Party, two minor parties in the current coalition government. It is easy to view these parties as similar. They have similar views on some issues, criminal justice and Maori issues being two primary examples. They both enjoy propagating culture wars, speaking about woke this and woke that. But beyond these relatively shallow similarities, these parties are very different. The hatred between Winston Peters and David Seymour is not just personal, it reflects deep-rooted political disagreements between the parties. Too many people strongly support both of these parties. This does not make any sense, because ACT and New Zealand First are very, very different. Both parties were founded in the late 20th century. During the late 20th century, New Zealand politics was dominated by the neoliberal agenda. Privatisation and deregulation. Selling government assets, cutting government spending. Tax cuts for the rich, new taxes for ordinary people. The ACT Party was founded with the purpose of completing the neoliberal agenda. New Zealand First was founded with the purpose of rejecting the neoliberal agenda. Dating back to their founding, these parties were very different. And they still are. ACT still favours extensive privatisation, sales of state assets, massive tax cuts for the wealthy, and deep public spending cuts. New Zealand First opposes such measures. New Zealand First is generally socially conservative. They are not reliably socially conservative, but on some issues they adopt conservative positions. The ACT Party is socially liberal, and they are very open about that. This is another major difference. This is one of the few ways in which ACT is better than New Zealand First, but this is overshadowed by the economic disagreements between the parties. Without New Zealand First, this government would have been far worse. The retirement age would be increased, the foreign buyers ban would be abolished, the public spending cuts would be greater, the minimum wage would probably be lower. The government would be significantly worse without New Zealand First. Winston Peters also differs from the ACT Party in terms of foreign policy. Winston Peters has repeatedly condemned Israel, as he should. Israel has killed thousands of Palestinian children, ruined countless lives, and brutally raped prisoners. Israel is openly conducting ethnic cleansing. Their government ministers have said so. Israel deserves to be condemned. The ACT Party are totally amoral, so they see no issue with Israel's behaviour. They wave the Israeli flag and state their support for Israel as the bloodshed continues. Just another example of New Zealand First being vastly superior to the ACT Party. New Zealand First has campaigned on good policies in the past. A much higher minimum wage, a tax-free threshold, making citizen-initiated referenda binding. These are good policies. They do not excuse minority bashing and donor-serving stupidity. They do indicate that New Zealand First is a complex political party. The Gold Card is one of their main policy achievements, and it is a perfectly good policy. The ACT Party offers comparatively little value. Most of their policies are donor-serving anti-worker nonsense of an overt and hideous variety. The ACT Party wants to freeze the minimum wage and give rich people massive tax cuts. They hate trade unions and want to gut public spending. The ACT Party is very different to New Zealand First. The ACT Party is significantly worse than New Zealand First. New Zealand First is still bad. They still take big money donations from the industries they are supposed to regulate. They are still destroying the environment. They are still bashing vulnerable minorities and appealing to prejudice in the community. They are still propping up a donor-serving, anti-worker government. They do not support the bold reform that New Zealand needs. Make no mistake, New Zealand First is our enemy. But our enemies are not all equal. ACT is desperate to implement a brutal neoliberal agenda. a blatantly anti-worker agenda, weakened trade unions, stagnant minimum wages, exploited, impoverished workers. Tax cuts for the rich, paid for by cuts to the public services that ordinary people rely on. Cutting protections for workers, renters, and the environment so rich people can make more money with less effort. That is their disgusting agenda. It always amuses me when right-wingers strongly support both New Zealand First and the ACT Party. These parties are completely different. If you support them both, you have been consumed by culture wars. Because it is culture war issues where these parties are most comparable. On serious economic issues, they are completely different.